Hey guys, you notice my painting's kind of done already? Well, guess what? My phone did it again. It stopped recording and then deleted what I recorded. So here we are again, starting over. I'm going to start the story over. I'm not going to start the painting over. I'm sorry. You didn't miss, well, you missed kind of the blending part, but I'm still going to draw something on here. So it's not the end of the world. Anywho, hi. Hello, this is Violet with True Crime and Art. Today we are talking about the Axeman of New Orleans, which happened a long time ago, but it is a fascinating story. So this story happened in 1918. And I'm going to take a little segue here because guess what else happened in 1918 New Orleans? The Spanish flu. Did you guys know that it started in New Orleans, like on Tulane's campus, which used to be a military barracks? And the only reason it was called the Spanish flu is because the US government didn't want to acknowledge that this had started here. And Spain was like, hey, there's a flu. It's really bad. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's the Spanish flu. Spain. See, Spain did that. It's just, I thought it was interesting in today's climate. Anyway, anywho, we're talking about New Orleans, 1918. So keep in mind, this is in the midst of the Spanish flu epidemic, and New Orleans was the epicenter for that nonsense, okay? So this is about an intruder, a person who would break into people's homes in the middle of the night and kill them in their sleep with whatever he could find lying around. Now, back in 1918, everybody had an axe, okay? They needed it for chopping wood, for cooking, for heating their homes. Everyone had an axe. It's kind of like now everyone has a screwdriver or one of those weird little Allen wrench things that come with all the furniture you have to put together and then you never use it again, but somehow it's everywhere. It's one of those. So that's what axes were back then. So this intruder would break into their home. Let me tell you how he broke in. He would chisel out a panel on the door. They said it was about like this big, okay? And then he would reach his arm up through and unlock the door. So just to make matters worse, he didn't even bring his own chisel, folks. He found the chisel at these people's homes on the outside and would break in and go in and kill them with an axe he found inside. So like that is really ballsy to be like, I'm not going to bring my own shit. I'm just going to steal your shit and kill you. So I gave you the brief overview. Let me tell you about the victims because they are fascinating in themselves, okay? Now, the first victims were Joseph and Catherine Maggio. They were husband and wife, and Joseph was an Italian grocer. That means he owned a grocery store in New Orleans, okay? Got it? Good. Now, they were attacked in their sleep, and they were attacked with a straight razor that was found at the Maggio home. And Catherine died instantly. She was almost completely. And then Joseph, he actually was, his throat was slit, but his head was also hit with an axe. But he survived long enough to be found by his brothers, Jake and Andrew. Now, Jake owned a barbershop right next door to the Maggio home. And in fact, the razor that was used to kill the Maggios was Jake's razor. So with that knowledge, Jake is arrested and he is a suspect in their murder. Now, they finally get the information and figure out that Jake had brought the razor home for Joseph to sharpen because he had to use like a stone to sharpen it. And Joseph was going to do that for him. So they're like, oh, okay, you didn't kill your brother. You just left the murder weapon to be used by some other crazy person. So they let him go. Rightly so. Next, on June 27th, 1918, Louis Bessemer, who is an Italian grocer, and his mistress, Harriet Lowe, are attacked in their sleep. Now, Louis was hit with an axe right at his temple, and then Harriet was kind of hacked on her face. She received the majority of the hits. And of course, they're both knocked unconscious, and they are found the next morning by someone making a delivery to the grocery store. So they're brought to the hospital, Lewis and Harriet, brought to the hospital. And Lewis, he recovers faster. Okay, so he leaves the hospital. At this point, Harriet is still in the hospital. She's still unconscious. And one of Lewis's previous employees, Esteban Torres, who is a 41-year-old African-American man who had, like I said, previously worked for Lewis, is arrested with zero evidence as to why he's arrested. They're just like, shit, we need to make an arrest. He's African-American. That's apparently suspicious in 1918 New Orleans. So let's arrest him. So they did. They couldn't find any evidence to prove their theory that Esteban was the one that attacked them, so they let him loose. At this point, the police go back to Louis Bessemer's house and they do a search of the house. And they find in a trunk of Lewis's letters that are written in German, Russian, and Yiddish. So what does that mean to these police officers? Well, it means that Mr. Bessemer must be a German spy. Yeah, that's where I was going to, right? A German spy. So he's brought in for interrogation, doesn't really get anywhere. They let him go. And then Harriet starts to regain consciousness and she says, yeah, Lewis is a German spy. They bring him back in, do some more interrogation. They can't figure out what the hell is happening. There's no proof that he's a German spy other than letters written in a different language and Harriet, who is probably hopped up on morphine, saying that he's a German spy. So they let him loose. Now Harriet goes back and lives at the home that she shared with her lover, and she stays with him and everything seems hanky-dory. Mr. Bessemer still living his dual life with his wife and his mistress, and yay. Well, during the attack, Harriet's face had been really destroyed. So she was going to have surgery to fix it. Now, right before she goes into surgery, she tells the police that Lewis was the one that attacked her with the axe. Police are like, great. They go and pick up Lewis and arrest him. Now, Harriet goes into surgery, and 2 days later, she dies from complications of surgery. So Lewis's butt is stuck in jail because she has accused him of being this now murderer, right? Well, he sits in jail for 9 months before he has a trial. Goes to trial, the jury deliberates for 10 minutes and then acquits him because the jury is smarter than the police, apparently, in New Orleans in 1918. The next victim was on August 5th, and her name was Anna Schneider. She was a 28-year-old, 8-month pregnant woman that was attacked in her sleep. She was hit in the head with an axe from the home, and she was found by her husband. So don't worry, guys, don't freak out. She makes it to the hospital. 2 days later, delivers a healthy baby girl. The problem is she can't remember anything about the attack because she was asleep, right? I mean, how would you remember anything about that? So, oh, sorry, I'm realizing that I'm really low here. Sorry about that. So again, Anna's baby is fine. Yay, good, moving on. At this point, the police start to think, hey, maybe these attacks are related. Here's a hint, they are. So that was August 5th. Now, August 10th, Joseph Romano, who is a retired Italian grocer, he lives with his 2 adult nieces whom help take care of him, okay? Well, Joseph is attacked in his sleep with an axe from the home. And the nieces hear, they said like gurgling coming from their uncle's room. So they go to check it out and he is bleeding from the head. He has a severe head wound. They get him to the hospital and unfortunately 2 days later he dies of severe head trauma. So that's the next victim of the Axeman. At this point, the public is freaking out. A retired detective comes out and makes a statement to the local paper saying he thinks these recent attacks are related to attacks that happened in 1911 with a similar MO, where people were being killed in their sleep with axes, and that person was never caught. So this detective says this is the same perpetrator, and he is like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He's a perfectly normal citizen until the overwhelming urge to kill takes over. And so, of course, this sends New Orleans into a bigger panic. They freak out. So people start calling the police saying, I see an axe in my backyard. It's not my axe. It was dropped in my backyard. There's a weird man on the street. So people are rightfully kind of freaking out, okay? Now, at this point, the Axeman takes a little bit of time off. And that was in August, and he doesn't strike again until March 10th, 1919. And this time, it's a family of three. It is Charles and Rosie Cortamalinga and their 2-year-old daughter, Mary. All three are sleeping together and attacked in the head with an axe. Charles and Rosie do survive the attack, but sadly, 2-year-old Mary does not. And the family is found by their 69-year-old neighbor, Lorlando Giordana, who is also an Italian grocer. I can't even make this up. So anyway, Lorlando finds the family, brings them to the hospital, and they are, of course, both unconscious. Poor little Mary is no longer with us, and the police are just waiting to question Charles and Rosie to say, like, do you know anything? Well, when Rosie wakes up, she says that she does know who her attackers are, that it is in fact 69-year-old Lorlando Giordana and his 18-year-old son, Frank. Now, Rosie's husband, Charles, vehemently denies this. He's like, no, it was not them. They did not attack us. 100% it was not them. Regardless, the police go and arrest Lorlando and Frank and charge them with the murder of Mary and the previous attacks because they're just lumping it all together. Now, Charles is pissed. He's saying, this is not who attacked us. Rosie is saying, this is who attacked us. This is who killed my child. Let him burn in hell. Lorlando is convicted and he's sentenced to life in prison. Frank is convicted and he's sentenced to hang. Like a week after the trial is over, Charles divorces Rosie because he's so pissed. He's like, these people did not do it. You are a liar. And he divorces her. Now, a year of these men sitting in prison awaiting their fates, Rosie finally comes clean and says, oh, yeah, they didn't attack us. I just was really jealous of them and all the wealth that they had and how well their grocery was doing compared to ours. Yeah, so they didn't attack us. That bitch. Lorlando and Frank are released, thankfully, because the only evidence they had against them was Rosie's statement. Now, at this point, on March 13th, 1919, the Times-Picayune, which is the local paper, receives a letter from the Axeman. And normally I would summarize it for you guys, and it's a little long, but I have to read it to you because I can't even summarize it without giving you the full idea of what in the hell this is, because this is crazy. Okay, you guys ready? Hottest hell, March 13th, 1919. Esteemed mortal of New Orleans, they have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue except my bloody axe, besmeared with blood and brains, of he whom I have sent below to keep me company. If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I'm a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at the way they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as to not only amuse me, but his satanic majesty, Francis Joseph. But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better that they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. I don't think there is any need in such a warning, for I feel sure the police will always dodge me as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from all harm. Undoubtedly, you Orleanians think of me as a horrible murderer, which I am. But I could be so much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, and the worst, for I am in close relationship with the angel of death. Wait for it, here it comes. Now, to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time, on next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I'm very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether region that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. Okay. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then so much the better for you people. One thing is for certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night will get the axe. Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus, and it is about time I leave your earthly home, I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee. I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that ever existed, either in fact or realm of fancy. The Axeman. Y'all, I mean, I told you I couldn't make that up. I had to read it as it was because, damn, that was intense, right? I mean, in my native Tartarus. From hell. Okay, sorry. Got distracted by the letter. Okay, so that letter was sent March 13th, and it said that on March 19th, which would be the following Thursday, that if whoever had jazz music playing would be spared. Well, in true New Orleans fashion, every building, every home had either like professional jazz players or amateur jazz players or people pretending to play jazz. New Orleans threw a big old party, and they had jazz music everywhere, and no one was killed that night. Now, to this day, there are bars in New Orleans in the quarter that between March 13th and 17th, at least one night, they played jazz all night long to appease the Axeman. I mean, we're talking country bars, discos, like hip-hop. One night, they all play jazz. I mean, like, they can choose which night between the 13th and the 15th of March, but they play jazz. I thought that was freaking crazy that they still do that, and that I hadn't heard of it until I researched it. I guess I don't know. Did you guys know that? In August of 1919, so we took a little break. In August of 1919, Steve Bocca, who is, you guessed it, an Italian grocer, was attacked in his sleep with an axe, and he had a severe head trauma. Ooh, goodness, sorry. I'm trying to do a sideways thing, and I'm painting sideways, so it's always kind of weird. So he was attacked in his sleep, and he ended up running out once he woke up, like he regained consciousness. He ran out into the street to try to find the intruder, and he couldn't find anything, so he ran to his neighbor's home, Frank Janusa, and he actually passed out at the neighbor's home. So they called the police. They had him taken to the hospital, and guess what? He didn't remember a damn thing. Super freaking annoying, right? So I did not mean to do that, but we're just gonna pretend, okay? Yes, so he didn't remember anything. September 3rd, he attacked Sarah Lahmann in her sleep with an axe. She was found by her neighbors. Again, did not remember a dang thing at this point. Like, I guess it's working out for the Axeman, like hit him in the head, they won't remember you. So anyway, on October 27th, the Axeman attacked, again, an Italian grocer named Mike Pepitone, and hit him over the head repeatedly with an axe that he found in his home. Mike's wife, Esther, came in to find Mike, and she said he was still alive and he was moving, but blood was going everywhere. It was soaked through. There's blood all over the walls. And she said that she saw two perpetrators leaving their home and walking through the room where all 6 of their children were sleeping. so the Axeman or men just left her and the children alone. So walked out, boom. Now, he died, obviously, because it was such a vicious attack. He was hit 18 times with an axe. And Esther, she couldn't take it anymore. So she decided she needed to start new, start fresh. So she moved to LA with her 6 children. And she ended up marrying someone that she knew from New Orleans in the Italian grocery business that she had met through her husband. His name was Angelo Albano. Just before the wedding, Angelo had dissolved a business partnership that he had with another man from New Orleans named Doc Mumphrey. He was a shady character. He was a pharmacist by day, and he was involved with the mafia and a blackmailing gang in New Orleans by night. So once Angelo found out about that, he was like, no, we're not going to have business anymore. So Angelo moved to LA, and that's whenever he married Esther. Now, by a weird strange of events, Doc Mumphrey moved to San Bernardino, California, which is near LA, and still had some contact with Angelo. Okay. Now, 2 years to the day of Mike Pepitone's death, Esther's first husband, Angelo leaves the house. He's going grocery shopping to get stuff for dinner, get vegetables for dinner. He drops by the bank. People are able to really put an eye on him. They see him withdraw money, and Angelo is never seen again. So 2 years to the day of Mike Pepitone's death, Angelo is done. You can't find him. He's missing. So Esther goes to Doc Mumphrey and says, hey, I can't find my husband. Do you know where he is? Doc Mumphrey, not realizing that this is Angelo's wife, says, yeah, I kidnapped him because he has money. He owes me money. And his wife is really wealthy, and they have a big house, and she's going to give me money. So Esther's like, okay, this is not at all how I was expecting this to play out. So Esther goes home and she tries to figure out, like, what the hell am I going to do? This guy has my husband. I don't want him to have my husband. That's not ideal, right? Well, about 3 weeks later, Doc Mumphrey shows up at Esther's house with her and her children there. And he knocks on the door and she goes to greet him. He apparently demanded $500 and all of her jewelry. He told her if he didn't get that from her, he was going to kill her just like her husband. At this point, she's assuming that he's talking about Angelo, the husband that's missing. So Esther goes into the bedroom and, in a total badass move, gets out a .38 caliber and comes to the door and shoots him, and she unloads the gun on him. She apparently has a second .38 caliber that she picks up after she has shot him. He's sliding down the stairs. She's shooting him, picks up a second .38 caliber and unloads that on him. Well, needless to say, guys, he's dead. I mean, he doesn't survive that, okay? So she's picked up for, killing Doc Mumphrey, and the police start to put things together. They're like, wait a minute, didn't her husband die in a suspicious way in New Orleans whenever she was there and she was the only survivor? That's weird. So they start looking into Esther, saying that she's the killer or whatever it might be, which is so stupid. Like, it's so stupid. So here's the thought. Oh, wait, let me back up. So Esther is put on trial. After 40 minutes of deliberation, she's released. She's acquitted of all charges. Esther and her children moved back to New Orleans, where she lived until her death. And they didn't live happily ever after. Both husbands were missing or dead because Mike Pepitone was murdered by the Axeman, and then Angelo was assumingly murdered by Doc Mumphrey, which police in New Orleans and police in LA started talking. And they're like, I think that Doc Mumphrey was the Axeman. Now, hear me out on this, folks. Doc Mumphrey, like I said, had some dealings with a blackmailing gang in New Orleans, and they targeted Italian grocers. So like people of Italian descent who owned grocery stores, which the majority of the Axeman victims were Italian grocers. Also, Doc Mumphrey had a ton of different aliases, which is just shady to begin with. And Doc Mumphrey was in New Orleans during the 1911 murders that went unsolved. He was in jail from the end of 1911 through right when the 1918 murders started. And then Doc Mumphrey moved to LA 2 days after the Mike Pepitone murder. I don't know about you, but I think he's the freaking murderer. I think it's Doc Mumphrey, and I have a picture of him. He looks shady to me. I think he's the murderer, okay? Some people don't think he's the murderer because they're having trouble finding a Mumphrey name, but Mumphrey was spelled like 16 different ways, and we know that records aren't what they are today, so I don't think we should let that get in our way. There is a thought that there is a bigger mafia connection, that all of these Italian grocer folks were people who hadn't paid the mafia, and so they were getting retribution. Now, another thought is that it seemed that the women were targeted and they had more of a more like harder, I guess, like attacks on them. And that it was like a person that had nothing to do with the mafia. It was just a sexual sadist, which I don't know, because there was a couple instances where it's just men that were attacked. So that doesn't like jive with me. So I want to know what you guys think. Who do you think the killer is? Do you think it's Doc Mumphrey? Do you think the two are attached, the 1911 and the 1918 murders? I don't know. I want to know what you guys think. So, I'm going to stop with this painting because it's going crooked and it looks cool. It's supposed to be kind of crooked, but it's getting more crooked than I want it to. And let me see if I can try to fix this right here. Because, you know, sometimes whenever you try to fix it, it just gets worse. Okay, maybe that's better. Is that better? Anyway, I hope you guys liked the story of the Axeman of New Orleans. I thought it was really fascinating because all of the victims were fascinating too, and a little shady at points. So it made me, I don't know, I kind of believe the mafia thing, and I think Doc Mumphrey was like the hitman. So what do you guys think? Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off because it is going to be my 15-year anniversary, and we are going to be out of town. Yay! And so I'm going to take some time off for that. So go ahead and like and subscribe. And I'd really like some suggestions about who you guys want to talk about next. I believe next time I am going to talk about Vincent Gillis, the other Baton Rouge serial killer who is a freaking hot mess. So be ready for that one. If you guys like these older stories, let me know. I think I like them a little bit more. They're fun to research. And it's just really interesting. They're harder to research, but they're really fun. So let me know what you guys think. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Be kind to each other. Bye.